The smell of fresh coffee hit Amelia Rivers the moment she walked into the corporate lobby, and for the first time in 3 weeks, she felt something close to normal. She clutched her portfolio against her chest, straightening her blazer that she'd borrowed from her friend's closet, hoping nobody would notice the sleeves were slightly too long. She'd been couch surfing since she left her ex-boyfriend's apartment with nothing but 2 suitcases and her dignity. And this interview at Zenith Hospitality Group could be the turning point she desperately needed. The receptionist directed her to the 15th floor, and Amelia rode the elevator alone, practicing her smile in the reflective walls. She'd applied for a marketing coordinator position, something entry-level that would at least get her back on her feet. The doors opened to reveal a sleek office space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She'd barely taken 3 steps when a door opened down the hallway and a man emerged, phone pressed to his ear. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it one too many times that morning. His suit was perfectly tailored, navy blue with a crisp white shirt underneath. When his eyes met hers, she froze. There was something intense about his gaze, focused and assessing but not unkind. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone, ending the conversation without waiting for a response. He walked toward her with the kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly who he was. "You must be here for the interview." "Yes, I'm Amelia Rivers. I'm supposed to meet with the hiring manager at 10. "Ryan Zimmerman," he said, extending his hand. His grip was firm, warm. "I'm conducting the interviews today. Our HR director had a family emergency." Amelia's stomach dropped slightly. She'd prepared to meet with someone from human resources, not whoever this man was. He had the bearing of someone important, someone who wouldn't waste time on a junior position. "Follow me," Ryan said, leading her to a conference room that was bigger than her ex's entire apartment. He gestured to a chair and took the seat across from her rather than at the head of the table. "Tell me about yourself." She launched into her practice speech about her degree in communications, her internship at a boutique marketing firm, her passion for brand storytelling. Ryan listened without interrupting, his attention never wavering. It was unnerving and encouraging all at once. "Your resume shows a gap of about 4 months," he said, his tone more curious than accusatory. "What were you doing during that time?" Amelia hesitated. She could lie, fabricate something professional sounding. But there was something about the directness in his eyes that made her choose honesty instead. "I was helping take care of my mother. She had breast cancer. She's in remission now, but those months were necessary." Something shifted in Ryan's expression, a softening around his eyes. "I'm glad she's doing better. That must have been difficult." They talked for another 30 minutes, the conversation flowing more naturally than any interview she'd ever had. Ryan asked thoughtful questions about her approach to social media strategy, her thoughts on brand authenticity, her long-term goals. By the end, Amelia felt like she'd actually had a real conversation rather than performed a rehearsed routine. "I'll be honest with you," Ryan said, leaning back in his chair. "You're overqualified for the coordinator position. Your portfolio is strong, your ideas are fresh, and you have instincts that can't be taught. I'd like to offer you the senior marketing manager role instead." Amelia blinked. "The senior position, but I only have 2 years of experience." "You have the right 2 years, and more importantly, you have the mindset I need on my team. The salary is $75,000 with full benefits. Can you start Monday?" She wanted to scream yes, to jump up and hug this stranger who was offering her a lifeline. Instead, she managed a professional smile and said, "That would be perfect. Thank you so much." Ryan stood and she followed suit. As they shook hands again, he studied her for a moment. Is everything all right? You look exhausted. The question caught her off guard. I'm fine, just excited. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Get some rest this weekend. Monday will be intense. Amelia left the building feeling like she was floating. She called her friend Jessica, who'd been letting her crash on her couch, and shared the news. That's amazing. Jessica squealed through the phone. See, I told you things would work out. I know, I just need to find an apartment now. With the new salary, I can actually afford a decent place. About that, Jessica said, her tone shifting to apologetic. My sister is moving back from Portland next week. She needs the couch. I'm so sorry, Amy. I thought it would be another month at least. Amelia's excitement deflated slightly. No, don't apologize. You've been incredible letting me stay this long. I'll figure something out. That weekend, Amelia learned just how difficult the rental market had become. Every decent apartment wanted first month, last month, security deposit, and proof of employment that she didn't technically have yet. Landlords looked at her skeptically when she explained she'd just gotten a new job. By Sunday night, she was exhausted and desperate, scrolling through listings for weekly motels that would drain her savings before her first paycheck arrived. Monday morning came too quickly. Amelia showed up at Zenith Hospitality Group at 8 sharp, wearing the same blazer and her most confident expression. The receptionist, a cheerful woman named Marie, gave her a visitor badge and called someone to escort her up. The someone turned out to be Ryan himself. Good morning, he said, looking just as polished as he had during the interview. Sleep well. Well enough, she lied. He led her through the office, introducing her to what felt like 50 people in rapid succession. Her new team consisted of 4 other marketers, all friendly and welcoming. Her desk was by a window with a view of the park below, and someone had left a welcome basket with snacks and office supplies. The morning flew by in a whirlwind of system logins, policy reviews, and project briefs. Ryan appeared periodically to check on her, always with that focused attention that made her feel like she was the only person in the building. Around noon, he stopped by her desk. How are you holding up? Good. A little overwhelmed, but good. Come have lunch with me. We can go over the quarterly strategy. They went to a quiet restaurant 2 blocks away, a place with white tablecloths and attentive servers. Amelia ordered a salad, conscious of both her limited funds and her need to make a good impression. Ryan ordered without looking at the menu, clearly a regular. So tell me the truth, he said once their food arrived. What made you leave your last relationship? The question was so unexpected that Amelia nearly choked on her water. Excuse me. You mentioned couch surfing in your interview, which suggests a sudden change in living situation. And you have the look of someone who's rebuilding. I'm just curious what you're rebuilding from. She should have been offended by the personal question, but his tone was gentle, genuinely interested. My ex turned out to be not who I thought he was. I spent a year supporting him while he supposedly looked for work, but he was actually just playing video games and spending my money. When I finally confronted him, he made it clear I was more of a convenience than a partner, so I left. Ryan nodded slowly. Good for you. That takes courage, or stupidity. I didn't exactly have a backup plan. Courage and stupidity often look the same from the outside, Ryan said with a slight smile. The difference is in the intention. You intended to respect yourself. That's never stupid. Something about the way he said it made Amelia's chest tighten. She wasn't used to men who spoke like that, who seemed to understand the weight of small decisions. They talked about work for the rest of lunch, but Amelia noticed Ryan watching her with a thoughtfulness that went beyond professional interest. When they returned to the office, she threw herself into learning everything she could about her new role. The week progressed in a blur of meetings, campaigns, and late nights at her desk. Amelia found herself staying later than everyone else, partly because she loved the work and partly because she dreaded the nightly shuffle of finding somewhere to sleep. She'd bounced between two other friends' couches, but she could see the strain it was putting on those friendships. Friday evening, she was still at her desk at 8 when Ryan emerged from his office. She hadn't realized he was still there. "You're here late," he observed, "just finishing up the mock-ups for the summer campaign." He walked over and looked at her screen. "These are excellent, but they can wait until Monday. Go home, Amelia." She saved her work and started packing up her things, acutely aware that she didn't actually have a home to go to. Her friend Marcus had reluctantly agreed to let her stay the weekend, but his apartment was a studio and she'd be sleeping on an air mattress in his kitchen. "Everything okay?" Ryan asked, still standing there. "Yes, why?" "Because this is the third time this week you've looked like you're about to face a firing squad when you leave the office." Amelia sighed, too tired to maintain the pretense. "I'm still looking for an apartment. The market is brutal right now, and staying with friends is starting to wear thin on everyone involved." Ryan was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. "I have a spare room." "What? In my house? It's not being used. You're welcome to stay there while you look for a place." "No conditions, no strings attached." Amelia stared at him. "You're my boss. That would be completely inappropriate." "It would be inappropriate if I made it conditional or expected something in return. I'm not doing either. I'm offering you a room because you need one and I have one available." "That's it, Ryan. I can't think about it over the weekend," he said, his tone making it clear he wasn't going to argue. "The offer stands." He left before she could protest further, leaving her standing there with her bag half packed and her mind racing. Was he serious? Did he really expect her to move into her boss's house? But even as she questioned it, a part of her recognized the genuine nature of his offer. He'd meant what he said. No conditions. The weekend at Marcus's place was as uncomfortable as she'd feared. He was kind about it, but his girlfriend clearly resented the intrusion. By Sunday night, Amelia was sitting on the air mattress with her laptop, desperately searching for any rental option that wouldn't require selling a kidney. Monday morning, she arrived at work with dark circles under her eyes. Ryan took one look at her and said, "My office, now." She followed him, expecting a reprimand for looking unprofessional. Instead, he closed the door and gestured for her to sit. "You look worse than you did Friday." "Thanks," she said dryly. "I'm serious, Amelia. This situation is clearly taking a toll. My offer still stands. I have a 3-bedroom house in Riverside. I'm only using 1 bedroom. You can have the guest room for as long as you need it. I work long hours. I'm rarely home before 7, and I promise you I have zero ulterior motives. I just don't like seeing someone struggle when I have the means to help." "Why?" The question came out more desperately than she intended. "Why would you do this for someone you barely know?" Ryan leaned against his desk, his expression serious. "Because 5 years ago, I was sleeping in my car while trying to build this company. Someone gave me a chance when they didn't have to, let me stay in their basement until I could afford my own place. That person changed my life. I'm just paying it forward." The confession surprised her. Ryan Zimmerman, with his tailored suits and commanding presence, had been homeless. It made him suddenly more real, more human. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes. Pack your things tonight. I'll text you the address. You can move in tomorrow if you want." Amelia knew she should think about it more, should consider all the potential complications. But she was so tired of being in limbo, of imposing on friends, of feeling untethered. And something about Ryan made her trust him in a way she hadn't trusted anyone in a long time. "Okay," she said quietly. "Yes, thank you." His smile was warm, genuine. "Good, now let's get back to work." The next evening, Amelia pulled up to Ryan's address and had to double-check her phone to make sure she had the right place. The house was beautiful, a modern craftsman-style home with a sprawling front porch and mature trees in the yard. This wasn't just nice. This was wealthy. Ryan opened the door before she could knock, wearing jeans and a plain gray t-shirt that somehow made him look even more attractive than his suits did. "Come in," he said, helping her with her suitcases. "Let me show you around." The interior was tastefully decorated but lived in, with comfortable furniture and bookshelves filled with actual books. He led her upstairs to a spacious bedroom with its own bathroom. "This is your space," he said. "There are fresh towels in the bathroom, extra blankets in the closet. Kitchen is fully stocked, help yourself to anything. The only rule is that you don't feel like a guest. This is your home for as long as you need it." Amelia set her suitcase down, overwhelmed by the generosity. "Ryan, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just focus on your work and finding a place you love. No rush." He left her to settle in, and Amelia spent the next hour unpacking and marveling at her luck. The room was bigger than some apartments she'd looked at. The bed was comfortable, the bathroom was clean, and for the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe. Living with Ryan turned out to be surprisingly easy. He was true to his word about working long hours. Most mornings, she'd find him already gone by the time she woke up, a fresh pot of coffee waiting and sometimes a note about dinner leftovers in the fridge. Evenings, they'd occasionally overlap in the kitchen, exchanging updates about their days while they cooked separate meals. "You don't have to always cook alone," Ryan said one Thursday evening watching her chop vegetables. "We could combine efforts, more efficient." "Are you saying my cooking smells good?" Amelia teased. "I'm saying it smells better than my frozen dinners." They started cooking together after that, falling into an easy rhythm of shared meal prep and conversation. Amelia learned that Ryan had built Zenith Hospitality Group from nothing, starting with a single boutique hotel and expanding to 15 properties across the region. He worked constantly, but was never stressed about it, seeming to genuinely love what he did. "Why hospitality?" she asked one evening as they sat at his dining table with plates of pasta. "My parents owned a bed and breakfast when I was growing up. Nothing fancy, just a small place in Vermont. I loved watching my mom make guests feel welcome, like they were coming home rather than just renting a room. When they passed away, I sold the property and used the money to start Zenith. I wanted to create that same feeling but on a larger scale. I'm sorry about your parents. It was a long time ago. Car accident when I was 23, but I like to think they'd be proud of what I've built." Amelia reached across the table and squeezed his hand. The gesture was instinctive, comforting. Ryan's fingers closed around hers for a moment before she pulled back, suddenly aware of the intimacy of the action. "I'm sure they would be," she said softly. The weeks passed, and Amelia found herself looking forward to the evenings when Ryan was home. He was easy to talk to, funny in a dry way that caught her off guard, and genuinely interested in her thoughts on everything from marketing strategies to the best way to make scrambled eggs. She continued looking for apartments, but none of them felt right. Or maybe she just wasn't in as much of a hurry as she'd thought. One Saturday, Ryan knocked on her bedroom door around 10 in the morning. "Want to help me with something?" he asked when she opened it. "Sure, what do you need?" "I'm terrible at decorating. The living room has looked the same since I moved in 3 years ago. I was thinking about changing things up, but I have no idea where to start. You have a good eye." They spent the day rearranging furniture, sorting through boxes of decorative items Ryan had apparently bought but never unpacked, and debating the merits of various throw pillow arrangements. Amelia couldn't remember the last time she'd had so much fun doing something so mundane. "This looks like an actual home now," Ryan said that evening, surveying their work. "Thank you, my pleasure. You should have people over more often, show off your newly decorated space." "I don't really do the whole social gathering thing." "Why not?" Ryan shrugged, settling onto the newly arranged couch. "Work keeps me busy, and honestly most people I know are either employees or business contacts. Lines get blurry." "That sounds lonely." "It can be," he admitted, his eyes meeting hers, "but it's been better lately." The air between them felt charged, heavy with something unspoken. Amelia sat beside him, maintaining a careful distance, trying to ignore the way her heart was beating faster. "I should probably mention something," Ryan said, his tone shifting to serious. "People at work have started noticing that we arrive and leave around the same time. There's been some talk." Amelia's stomach dropped. "What kind of talk?" "The predictable kind. I wanted you to hear it from me first. I've made it clear that you're renting a room from me, that it's a temporary arrangement and that it's nobody's business. But I know office politics, and I don't want this affecting your reputation." "Do you want me to move out?" "No," he said firmly, "but I want you to feel comfortable. If the gossip bothers you, we can adjust things. I can talk to HR about it officially, make it documented so there's no question of impropriety." "You'd really do that? Put it in official records that you're letting an employee live with you?" "I'm not ashamed of helping someone, Amelia. And I won't let office gossip make you feel like you should be either." His conviction made something warm bloom in her chest. She'd been so used to men who cared about appearances, who made decisions based on what others would think. Ryan didn't seem to operate that way at all. "Let's document it," she said. "Make it official. I don't want anyone thinking you gave me my position because of personal reasons. I earned that job." "You absolutely did." Monday morning, they met with HR together and formally documented the living arrangement. The head of HR, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia, didn't even blink at the situation. "Stranger things have happened," she said, filing the paperwork. "And honestly, I'd rather see this kind of generosity than some of the cutthroat behavior I've witnessed in corporate environments. Just maintain professional boundaries at work and you'll be fine." As spring turned to summer, Amelia thrived in her role. The campaigns she developed were successful, her team respected her, and she felt genuinely fulfilled by her work. She'd started looking at apartments again, but half-heartedly. Living with Ryan had become comfortable, easy. They'd developed their own routines, their own inside jokes, their own way of existing in the same space without ever feeling crowded. One Friday evening, they decided to watch a movie together. It had become a weekly tradition, trading off who chose. This week was Amelia's turn, and she'd picked an old romantic comedy that Ryan pretended to groan about. "You're going to make me watch people fall in love for 2 hours. It's a classic. Stop complaining." They settled on the couch with bowls of popcorn, and Amelia tried to focus on the screen. But she was acutely aware of Ryan beside her, his arm stretched along the back of the couch, his warmth radiating toward her. Halfway through the movie, during a particularly romantic scene, she felt his fingers brush against her shoulder. "Sorry," he murmured, starting to move his arm. "It's okay," she said, and without overthinking it, she leaned slightly into his side. Ryan went still for a moment, then relaxed, his arm settling more firmly around her. They stayed like that for the rest of the movie, and Amelia couldn't have recounted the plot if someone paid her. All she could think about was the solid presence of Ryan beside her, the way his thumb absently traced patterns on her shoulder, the fact that this felt more right than anything had in years. When the credits rolled, neither of them moved immediately. "Amelia," Ryan said, his voice low. Yeah. I need to tell you something, but I don't want to make things weird. Her heart was hammering now. Okay. I didn't offer you the spare room because I felt sorry for you. I mean, I did want to help. But if I'm being honest, I was also looking for an excuse to spend more time with you. You walked into that interview and I couldn't stop thinking about you. And these past few months, living with you, getting to know you, I've just confirmed what I suspected from the beginning. What did you suspect? The question came out barely above a whisper. He shifted to face her fully, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. That you're extraordinary. That you're the first person in years who makes me want to come home early from work. That I'm completely, entirely falling for you. Amelia's breath caught. She should probably think about the complications, the fact that he was her boss, the power dynamics. But all she could think about was how long she'd been fighting her own growing feelings, how many nights she'd lain awake in the room he'd given her, wishing she had the courage to walk down the hall to his. I think I've been falling for you too, she admitted. I kept telling myself it was just gratitude or proximity, but it's more than that. You're more than that. Ryan's smile was soft, almost relieved. So what do we do about it? I think you should kiss me. He didn't need to be told twice. His lips met hers gently at first, questioning, giving her room to change her mind. But Amelia leaned into the kiss, her hand coming up to rest against his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing as fast as hers. The kiss deepened, became more urgent, and when they finally broke apart, they were both breathing hard. I've wanted to do that for so long, Ryan said, resting his forehead against hers. Me too. They stayed on the couch for hours, talking about everything they'd been holding back. Ryan confessed he'd almost asked her out a dozen times, but didn't want to abuse his position of authority. Amelia admitted she'd been secretly hoping he would. They laughed about the absurdity of two adults tiptoeing around their feelings while living in the same house. So what now? Amelia asked eventually. We probably need to tell HR. Monday, Ryan said. We'll tell Patricia, make sure everything is documented properly. I don't want anyone claiming favoritism or impropriety. What if they make it difficult? Some companies have policies about relationships between supervisors and employees. Then, I'll remove myself from your direct reporting line. We'll restructure so you report to someone else. I'm not going to let corporate policy dictate my personal life, Amelia. I've wanted something real for a long time. Now that I've found it, I'm not letting go. The certainty in his voice made her feel safe in a way she hadn't felt since before her mother got sick, since before she realized her ex was using her, since before everything fell apart. Ryan made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could trust someone again. Their first official date happened Sunday evening. Ryan took her to a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a side street, the kind of place with red checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in wine bottles. This was the first place I ate at when I moved to the city, he explained as they were seated. I just sold my parents' bed and breakfast. I had a business plan and a dream, and I came here to celebrate taking the leap. I've been coming back ever since. It's perfect, Amelia said, and she meant it. They talked through dinner, the conversation flowing as easily as it did at home but with a new undercurrent of romance. Ryan reached across the table to hold her hand, his thumb stroking over her knuckles, and Amelia felt like she was in one of those movies she loved, where everything aligned perfectly. Tell me something you've never told anyone, Ryan said. Amelia thought for a moment. When I was taking care of my mom, there were days I resented it. Not her, never her. But I resented the situation, the way my life was on hold, the fact that I was watching her suffer and couldn't do anything to stop it. And then I'd feel guilty for resenting it because she was fighting cancer and I was just tired, I've never said that out loud before. Ryan squeezed her hand. That doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. Your turn. Tell me something. When I was sleeping in my car, I used to park outside this house in Riverside. Not mine, someone else's. It had this big porch and all these windows, and at night you could see inside where this family would have dinner together, laughing and talking. I'd watch them sometimes and promise myself that one day I'd have something like that. Somewhere that felt like home. The house I have now is on the same street. I bought it because I never forgot that feeling of looking at that other house and wanting to belong somewhere. And do you feel like you belong there now? I'm starting to, he said, his eyes locked on hers. Especially in the last few months. They walked home slowly, hand in hand, in no rush to end the evening. When they reached the house, Ryan pulled her close on the front porch. I'm going to kiss you now, he said, just so you know. I was hoping you would. This kiss was different from the first, deeper and more assured. When they finally went inside, Ryan walked her to her bedroom door like a gentleman. Sleep well, he said. You could come in, Amelia offered, then immediately felt her cheeks flush. I mean, not for anything, just to talk more, or Ryan silenced her with another quick kiss. I want to do this right. Take our time. You're not just some fling to me, Amelia. She nodded, touched by his consideration. Good night, Ryan. Good night. Monday brought the expected conversation with Patricia in HR, who took notes and adjusted reporting structures without making them feel like they were doing anything wrong. Just keep it professional in the office, she advised. No public displays of affection, no preferential treatment. And Ryan, I'll need you to recuse yourself from any decisions regarding Amelia's compensation or advancement. Understood, Ryan said. Marcus and the senior management team can handle those decisions. Word spread through the office quickly, as it always did. Most people were supportive. A few were clearly skeptical, but Amelia held her head high. She knew she'd earned her position through hard work and results. Anyone who wanted to gossip about her relationship with Ryan could waste their own time doing so. The summer was a blur of happiness. Amelia stopped looking for apartments entirely, and Ryan stopped pretending he wanted her to move out. They fell into a partnership that worked in every aspect of their lives. At work, they were professional but warm, occasionally meeting for lunch or leaving together at the end of the day. At home, they were inseparable, cooking together, watching movies, talking until late into the night. Ryan took her to meet his sister in August, a weekend trip to Boston where she was welcomed with open arms by a woman who clearly adored her brother. He's never brought anyone home before, his sister Sarah confided while Ryan was out getting coffee. I was starting to think he'd married his work. You're good for him. I can see it. He's good for me too, Amelia said honestly. When Amelia's mother requested to meet the man her daughter couldn't stop talking about, Ryan drove them 3 hours to her hometown without hesitation. Her mother, still recovering but strong, took one look at Ryan and pulled Amelia aside. That's a good man, she whispered. Don't let him go. I don't plan to, Amelia whispered back. By fall, they'd been together for 6 months, and Amelia couldn't imagine her life any other way. One October evening, she came home from work to find the house filled with candles and the smell of her favorite meal cooking. What's all this? She asked, setting down her bag. Ryan emerged from the kitchen, looking slightly nervous. I wanted to do something special. They ate dinner by candlelight, talking about their days, but Amelia could tell Ryan had something on his mind. After they finished, he took her hand and led her to the living room, the same room they'd rearranged together months ago. I've been thinking a lot about what you said once, Ryan began. About how I should have people over more, make this place feel like a real home. You have, Amelia said. It feels like a home now. It feels like home because you're here. Before you moved in, this was just a house. Furniture and walls and a place to sleep between work days. But you've made it something more. You've made it somewhere I want to be. Ryan, let me finish, he said gently. When you walked into my office for that interview, I saw someone brave and determined and brilliant. These months living with you, falling in love with you, I've discovered you're all that and so much more. You're kind and funny, and you make me want to be better. You make me want to build something real, something lasting. He pulled a small box from his pocket and dropped to one knee, and Amelia's hands flew to her mouth. Amelia Rivers, will you marry me? Not because you're living in my house or because it's convenient, but because I love you more than I thought it was possible to love another person. Because I want to spend the rest of my life coming home to you, cooking with you, laughing with you, building a real family with you. Tears were streaming down Amelia's face. Yes, she managed. Yes, of course, yes. The ring was perfect, a simple diamond that caught the candlelight as he slipped it onto her finger. Then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her like she was the most precious thing in the world. They were married that spring in a small ceremony in the backyard of their house, surrounded by close friends and family. Amelia's mother cried happy tears. Ryan's sister served as best woman, and Patricia from HR showed up with a beautifully wrapped gift and a knowing smile. I had a feeling when you two first came to my office, she said. Some people just fit together. Amelia continued working at Zenith for another 2 years, building an impressive portfolio and eventually being headhunted by a major national brand. Ryan encouraged her to take the position, proud of her success, never threatened by her ambitions. They navigated the change together, supporting each other through career shifts and new challenges. On their second anniversary, Ryan came home with a grin she recognized as trouble. What did you do? Amelia asked. Remember that bed and breakfast I told you about, the one my parents owned in Vermont? Of course. The current owners are retiring. They reached out to me, asked if I wanted to buy it back, keep it in the family, so to speak. Amelia's eyes widened. What did you say? I said I needed to talk to my wife first. But I've been thinking maybe we could do something with it. Not run it ourselves full time, but restore it, honor my parents' legacy. What do you think? I think it's perfect. I think your parents would love that. They bought the bed and breakfast and spent weekends overseeing its restoration. It became a special project for them, a way to honor Ryan's past while building their future. When it reopened a year later, the first guests were Amelia's mother and a group of her friends, celebrating her 5-year cancer-free anniversary. By their 4th anniversary, Amelia was pregnant with their first child. Ryan cried when she told him, holding her close and whispering thank yous against her hair. Their daughter, Elena, was born the following spring with Ryan's dark hair and Amelia's green eyes. She's perfect, Ryan said, holding the tiny bundle in the hospital room, looking more terrified and awed than Amelia had ever seen him. We made a person, Amelia said, exhausted and happy. We made a family. 2 years later, they had a son named Thomas, who came into the world screaming and never really stopped, filling their house with noise and chaos and more love than Amelia had thought possible. On a quiet Sunday morning when Elena was 5 and Thomas was 3, Amelia stood in the kitchen making coffee while Ryan made pancakes and their children colored at the table. She thought about that day years ago when she'd walked into a corporate lobby with borrowed clothes and no idea what would come next. She'd been looking for a job, for stability, for a fresh start. Instead, she'd found everything she'd never known she needed. Ryan caught her staring and smiled. What are you thinking about? Just how lucky I am, how different my life could have been. He crossed the kitchen to kiss her forehead. I'm the lucky one. You walked into my office and changed everything. Daddy, pancakes are burning, Alina announced calmly. Ryan cursed and rushed back to the stove, and Thomas laughed his wild toddler laugh, and Amelia felt her heart swell with so much happiness she thought it might burst. This chaotic, messy, beautiful life was hers. The couch surfing, the uncertainty, the fear of never finding where she belonged, it had all led her here, to a man who offered help with no conditions and meant every word, to a home that was truly a home, to a love that had grown from a chance interview into something lasting and real. Years continued to pass in the way they do when you're happy, simultaneously fast and full. Amelia watched her children grow, navigated the challenges of parenthood alongside Ryan with the same partnership they'd brought to everything else. They took family trips to Vermont to visit the bed and breakfast, which had become a beloved retreat for couples and families looking for authentic New England charm. Alina showed an early interest in art, covering their refrigerator with drawings that progressed from stick figures to increasingly sophisticated portraits. Thomas was all energy and curiosity, constantly asking why about everything, driving them lovingly crazy with his endless questions. Ryan proved to be an incredible father, patient and present in ways that made Amelia fall in love with him all over again. Zenith Hospitality Group continued to thrive under Ryan's leadership, expanding to 25 properties and earning industry recognition for innovative customer service approaches. Amelia had risen to Chief Marketing Officer at her national brand, proving that the instincts Ryan had recognized in that first interview were as sharp as he'd believed. On their 10th anniversary, Ryan planned a surprise trip back to the small Italian restaurant where they'd had their first date. The owner, now an old friend, had reserved their favorite table. 10 years, Amelia marveled, looking at her husband across the candlelit table. A decade since you offered me that spare room. Best decision I ever made, Ryan said, raising his wine glass. Though I should confess something. After 10 years of marriage, this should be good. That first day you moved in, I stood outside your bedroom door for a solid 5 minutes trying to think of an excuse to knock and talk to you more. I was already completely gone for you. Amelia laughed. I was inside unpacking, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake moving in with my ridiculously attractive boss, who I was definitely already developing feelings for. Ridiculously attractive, huh? Don't let it go to your head. You were also intimidating. Was. Fine, you still are sometimes. In a good way. In a I can't believe this man chose me kind of way. Ryan reached across the table to take her hand, his thumb finding her wedding ring and spinning it gently. I still remember what you were wearing that first interview. Navy blazer with sleeves that were too long, trying so hard to look professional. You were terrified and brave at the same time. I was desperate, homeless, broke, starting over from nothing. You were never nothing. You were always extraordinary. I just gave you a room. You did everything else yourself. Tears pricked Amelia's eyes. Even after a decade, Ryan could still say exactly what she needed to hear. We did it together. Everything we've built, we've done as a team. Partners, Ryan agreed, in everything. They touched glasses and drank, surrounded by the warm ambience of a restaurant that had witnessed the beginning of their love story. Later, as they walked home through streets lit by lampposts and starlight, Ryan pulled her close. Thank you, he said softly. For what? For saying yes. To the job, to living with me, to taking a chance on someone who could have been a creep, but turned out to just be hopelessly in love with you. For giving me Alina and Thomas. For making my house a home. For being my partner in all of it. Amelia stopped walking and turned to face him fully. You saved me that day, you know. When you offered me that room, I was drowning and you threw me a lifeline without expecting anything in return. That kind of generosity changes a person. You would have been fine without me. You're a survivor, maybe, but I wouldn't have been this happy. I wouldn't have found this life. Ryan, you didn't just offer me a place to stay. You offered me a future I didn't know was possible. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, the kind of kiss that came from years of knowing someone completely and loving them anyway. When they finally made it home, they paid the babysitter and checked on their sleeping children before settling into bed themselves. Amelia curled into Ryan's side, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. This man who had been a stranger once, who had looked past her desperation to see her potential, who had offered help with no conditions and meant it completely. He'd given her more than a room. He'd given her stability, partnership, love, family, everything she'd thought she'd lost forever when she walked out of her ex's apartment with 2 suitcases and uncertainty. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Ryan whispered back, his arms tightening around her. Always. Outside, the city hummed with its usual nighttime symphony. Inside their house, their home, everything was exactly as it should be. 2 people who had found each other at exactly the right moment, who had built something beautiful from an act of simple kindness, who had proven that sometimes the best love stories start with someone offering help and meaning it with their whole heart. Amelia drifted off to sleep thinking about chance and choice, about how many small decisions had led her to that corporate lobby years ago, to that interview, to the moment when Ryan Zimmerman had looked at her and seen not someone struggling, but someone worth investing in. She thought about all the people who had turned her away or looked through her during those weeks of couch surfing, and how one person saying yes had changed everything. In the morning, there would be breakfast chaos and work meetings and the beautiful mundane reality of their life together. But tonight, wrapped in Ryan's arms in the house they'd made a home, Amelia was simply grateful. Grateful for the leap of faith she'd taken in accepting his offer. Grateful for the man who had kept his word about no conditions, who had let her find her own way while quietly, steadily falling in love with her. Grateful for a spare room that had become so much more than a temporary solution. It had been the doorway to everything, the beginning of a love story that proved kindness could be the foundation of something lasting. Ryan had offered shelter, and in return, Amelia had given him the home he'd always wanted, the family he'd dreamed of while sitting in his car outside someone else's house, the belonging he'd been searching for. They had saved each other, really. And they would keep choosing each other every day for the rest of their lives. That was what partnership meant. That was what love built on genuine respect and care looked like. That was what happened when someone offered help with no conditions and truly meant it, when another person was brave enough to accept, when 2 souls recognized something worth fighting for in each other. Their story wasn't about rescue or desperation. It was about 2 people who found each other at exactly the right time, who built something real from honesty and patience, who proved that the best things in life often come from the simplest acts of human kindness. A spare room, an open heart, and the courage to take a chance on something real. That was their beginning. Everything else had been their choice to keep showing up, keep trying, keep building something beautiful together. And they would continue doing exactly that, one day at a time, for all the days they had.